Good evening, family. Tony here once again. It's Wednesday, August the 10th. It's been a while. Went through a pretty rough bout with COVID, me and the family. Well, all of us, but my youngest daughter, she didn't ever catch it, thank goodness. But anyways, I started feeling a little bit better and decided to go back to work on Monday. So I made a little short video on Sunday. You've probably seen that. It's just the thunderstorm video. It was only about 3 minutes. And I apologize for not answering any of those comments. I was feeling so bad the first part of the week. I just haven't had any motivation to do anything. But the heat at work was just wiping me out. But I am starting to feel better. Every day I feel a little better. Still don't have my sense of smell and taste back completely yet, but it's starting to come back a little. But the dizziness is subsiding somewhat, and I'm still getting headaches in the afternoon pretty bad. But all in all, I'm 100% better all in all. So thank you for all your prayers and your kind words and your tips and advice. So anyways, I want to blow the shofar. So if you got your headbuds, if you got your earbuds in, you might want to take those out or lower your volume. Praise the Lord. Guys, there's a lot I want to talk about. I'm really excited. That thing really makes my nose itch. If you see me pause it, scratch my nose so nobody thinks I'm in the Illuminati. I know it's sad that I have to do that. I don't have to do that, but I'm trying to at least be aware of it. I just do things. I have habits, nervous habits of scratching and twitching and moving around. I guess it's, I don't know, ADHD or something. Anyways, guys, there's just a lot to talk about. And I won't get to everything, and I don't have any notes, so I'm just going to wing it. But we've been looking at dates and things for so long, and without any luck at all, or shouldn't say luck, it's just with nothing, we haven't been able to guess it. And we've been trying to guess it for several years now. And in the last full video that I made, I spoke about this, that there was something that a lot of the watchmen are talking about, as far as, looking for the raptures like a needle in a haystack, but looking for the tribulation is a much bigger space of time. And something I was thinking about today is that we're looking at things that we're guessing. We keep trying to figure out the dates, trying to figure out the calendar, trying to figure out this and that, the verses that go along with the rapture, and all that's, nothing's wrong with that. We should, be looking at everything we possibly can. But just as a different perspective, I started thinking about this. What if we start looking at the things that we know for sure, things that are happening or have happened, and start building from that, because that's something that we're not having to guess on. And I believe that if we can look at that and we can determine when the tribulation days are most likely going to start, which I believe we already know, I believe we can more pinpoint a time frame. Now, I don't think we're ever going to guess the day or the hour necessarily. And it's not necessarily just because of the verses in the Bible, but I don't think that we're supposed to know the day, the exact moment that it happens. It's probably for a good reason. But, and if we are, we probably won't know it until it's about to happen. So, but, and that could be the case too. But for right now, we're just guessing. So things that I've been looking at, and we've talked about them before. And guys, I don't think that anybody has really, I know some people have, but there's some things that have happened that are so profound and so biblical that it's kind of hard to really wrap your head around the significance and how important that it really is for the starting and the kickoff of the tribulation days. And the one thing that sticks out in my mind above all the rest, because there's still a lot of things that's yet to happen. We see it coming. We see the shadow of a lot of things coming. But what has actually happened that we can really, something really tangible that we can wrap our heads around, that's the red heifers. And I say that for a lot of reasons, okay? But here, let's think about this for a minute. What is the one thing that Israel has been waiting on for 2,000 years? That they cannot build a third temple. They cannot start the animal sacrifices without the red heifer. They have to have the ashes of a red heifer in order to sanctify the area of the temple, the people that are involved in it, and anything else, before they can do any kind of animal sacrifices, the daily sacrifice rituals, or building the temple. They have to have the ashes of a red heifer. And I read an article earlier. I should have probably got the link so I could post it here. I didn't. If I think about it when I'm finished with the video, maybe I can find it and try to post it on here. But you can look it up. All I did was a simple Google search. Was what is the date of that? How did I word it? I said, what date are the red heifers going to be sacrificed in Israel, or something to that effect? And then it came up with a bunch of articles. And one of the articles read this, and it said, I'm just paraphrasing, I can't remember the exact words, but basically it said that in order for Israel to have a red heifer, if they were to obtain the red heifer that was viable, that they could sacrifice, and that was spotless and only red hairs and all that, it said that would mean that the King Messiah would already be on the scene and be about to be revealed to the world. And that got me thinking, wow, I mean, this is really big here, because they do have viable red heifers. And here's the most important thing to remember is that they not only have one, but they have as many as three, maybe even a fourth one. I know for sure they had three, maybe a fourth one. But either way, even if it's just three, they had three heifers, at least three of them that had been qualified, that were qualified in the beginning when they were first born, that were completely red. All their hairs were red and everything. They were spotless, no blemishes. But then some of the hairs turned a different color. And we've spoke about this quite often, guys. And I hate to keep retelling the same story, but it's important in case you haven't heard the story. So the red heifer's hairs, some of them turned to a different color. Because of that, they had to disqualify the red heifers. Now, this was a couple years ago. But now, this year, the year that everyone's looking at for the possibility of the tribulation starting in the fall, based on Shemitah cycles and so many other things, with the wars, all the things that are going on. All of a sudden, these three heifers, not just one of them, but all three of them, miraculously, the hairs that were changed to some other color changed back to red. Guys, this had to be the hand of God. And why is it the hand of God? Because that means that God is allowing them to have those heifers. For what reason? So that the Antichrist can take his rightful place for his 7-year reign of terror on the earth. God has given it to him. So that means that if God is allowing the red heifers, that means that he's ready for the Antichrist to take his seat of power. And all this has got to happen at the same time. You see how many things, all these things have to play together. So the Jews are saying they have to, if they have red heifers that are viable when the time comes for them to be sacrificed, that means that the King Messiah is about to be revealed. And have they not been talking about that they have been communicating with their King Messiah already? So he's obviously already someone that they know of. He's already on the scene. He just has not been revealed to the world. This brings us back to Daniel 9:27. 9:27, when it says that he, talking about the Antichrist, would confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. 1 week, and we know that in Daniel that there's always this prophetic 7 weeks. This year, the 7 years, is a week. The 7 year for a week thing. So this 7-year period, this 1 week of 7 years, or like a week of years, rather, 7 years. It said in the middle of the week, it says he would sign he would confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and then in the middle of the week, he would cause the sacrifice to cease. If he's stopping the sacrifice in the middle of the week that he started by confirming a covenant, I think it's safe to say that the starting of the sacrifices, the daily sacrifices, began at the beginning of the covenant. I mean, we could be wrong, and this is a little bit of speculation here because it doesn't specifically say, but It does imply it, and I believe that that's what it means, okay? So if that's what it means, let's think about something. Daniel 9:27, Rosh Hashanah actually starts on the Jewish calendar on September 26th and 27th. Isn't that ironic? That's awful. That's a lot of coincidences playing in right there. So, in other words, they're going to have red heifers that are viable and ready to sacrifice. That's if nothing happens, if nothing changes, and it could change, something could happen, but it's not likely. We're in August. It's not likely now, this late in the game, that their hairs are going to suddenly miraculously change again. But it's all in God's hands. They could, certainly. So, but let's just assume, just for argument's sake, that they're not going to change again and that they have viable red heifers. So that means that this September, and I'm pretty sure, I couldn't find the exact date when they would be able to sacrifice, but I read early on in the year that it was sometime this fall. So let's just say that, just for argument's sake, that they will be ready to sacrifice by the Rosh Hashanah on the Jewish calendar. Now, never mind the dates that we're looking at. Everybody's looking at different dates, and, a lot of people believe that Rosh Hashanah is starting on a different date. That's all fine, but right now we're focused on Israel and what they think, because what they think is important to understand right now. Because here's the thing. If they believe that Rosh Hashanah is the beginning of, the head of their year, and if they have the red heifers, and if they already know who their King Messiah, or who they're going to, proclaim their King Messiah, they already know who he is, and they're planning to reveal him to the world, most likely on Rosh Hashanah. And I've actually heard rabbis talking about he would be revealed by or before Rosh Hashanah in previous years. So it would make sense that that would be the time that they would, coronate their new King Messiah, on the Feast of Trumpets, when they're already planning to blow trumpets and so forth. It would only make sense. So you got all these things that are happening in September, right? So, and it makes sense that it would happen in a Shemitah cycle. Now, if there is a Shemitah cycle that started in 1973, like I've been hearing, then that's the year I was born. And so now I'm starting to look at all the things that God's been showing me. Guys, he's been showing everybody stuff. And I think it's important that we all catch these clues now, but I think they're all part of the overall picture. But the things that he's been showing me, and it all revolves around the number 7. I got saved when I was 7 years old. 1973, that was the year I was born, which I believe that that's also the beginning of a Shemitah cycle. And that year started a Shemitah cycle. And so if that's the case, that means that this year would be the 7 times 7. I'm 49 years old. That means that this is the 49th year of that cycle. Now, I know in my last video I talked about 2014 and this year being the 7th year. I know that's not right. I mean, that's obviously 8 years, not 7 years. But the point of the whole thing was I believe that there was like everything that happened in 2014 was pointing to the Shemitah cycle that would start in 2015. That's kind of what I was meaning and what I was kind of looking at. I mean, I kept getting confused. I kept thinking for a long time that this year I had been here it was in my 7th year. In other words, my 7th year started in November of 2021, and but actually, the 8th year would have started in September of 2021 if that was a 7. See, that's what's confusing me. So, November of 2014, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. So November, and then so September was before November, right? So that means that this would be coming up. This September would be, or this November, would be the 8th year, not the 7th year. Anyways, but it doesn't matter, like I said, because if we were looking at, because remember 2014 was when those cows were born with the 7s on their forehead. And we know that might have been a sign of 7 years of famine and 7 years of plenty, vice versa. And that could have been a prelude, like the 1 year warning or the 1 year, sign before that cycle began, which would have began in this September 2015. So anyways, but everything's all really close and tied together. But so if this year is a Shemitah cycle, if it's a 49th year Shemitah cycle, then that means that 2023, or from September of 2022 to September 2023, would be the 50th year of the Jubilee. Now, why would that be important Why would that be significant if it were also the year of the tribulation starting? Well, I believe that's simple. Because in the year of Jubilee, we know that the trumpets are blasted on the Day of Atonement, on the 50th year. Instead of on the Feast of Trumpets, they're blasted on the Day of Atonement. So we know that atonement has something to do with the Jubilee. So there's a big deal being made about the Day of Atonement. And what's happened in Israel, if they are on the Day of Atonement, on a Jubilee year, they haven't kept the Shemitah years for all those years. The whole reason why there is such a thing as a Daniel 70th week is because they didn't keep the Shemitah cycles to begin with. They missed like 70 Shemitah cycles, like 70 Jubilees. And because of that, God gave them 7 times 70 as a punishment, which is 490 years. That's where the whole Daniel 70th week comes from to begin with. They fulfilled 483 years up until Jesus came on the earth. And then it stopped. The time clock stopped, and that 7 years that was left from the 483 to the 490, that was put on hold until some certain time. And we know that certain time must be at the end of the age of grace when the tribulation days start, because that's a 7-year period. Also, we know that it's a 7-year Shemitah cycle because the 490-year punishment was based around the fact they didn't observe the Shemitah cycles properly. So all that is perfectly, it lines up perfect. Everything lines up perfect. And that Jubilee year, when they should be having all the land given back to the rightful owners, the blowing of shofars and trumpets in celebration, all that stuff which is supposed to be happening in Israel, will be happening in their minds, because now they have red heifers. They can build their third temple. Their King Messiah is on the scene. They're probably going to crown him Messiah. And as far as they're concerned, woo, Jubilee, Jubilee. But what did the Bible say? It says that when they say peace and safety, sudden destruction comes. And it says that he would turn their feast days into mourning. Because see, for the first half of that 7 years, that first 3.5 years, they're going to be under this false assumption that everything's perfect, that they have their Messiah, that they have their temple, they have the daily sacrifice. Everything is wonderful until they realize that they were betrayed by the Antichrist, that their Messiah is really the devil, or the devil's incarnate, and that Jesus Christ was really the true Messiah, and he took the Christians already, and they're already gone. Because at the beginning, they're going to think it, hey, them pesky Christians that have been trying to get us to convert are finally gone and out of the picture, because God wiped them off the earth because they were wrong, blah, blah, blah. You see, so they're going to think everything's perfect, when in reality, that Jubilee year started our inheritance. It started our Jubilee. The Jubilee started for the believers, and judgment on the Day of Atonement will fall on everyone who did not accept him. And that includes Israel and the world. So that judgment's coming in the form of God's devil. He's coming in the form of the Antichrist, the false Messiah, who will deceive them. And they're just going to be completely consumed. And they'll even to the point where they'll almost be worshiping this person. And but of course we know that 3.5 years in will be the mark of the beast, the abomination of desolation, all that stuff would start to happen. So they're to flee into Judea, to Petra, where God has a place prepared for them, where he will take care of them. They will probably it'll be revealed to them who Jesus really is, and so forth and so on. So, everything will be made right with Israel, but that first 3.5 years is a false sense of happiness, it's a false Jubilee for them. But for us, we'll be celebrating in heaven at the true Jubilee celebration and the wedding feast of the Lord, and so forth and so on. So I think that red heifer thing is much more profound than people's giving it credit for. Because for 2,000 years, they've searched the world over, high and low, and have not found not one viable red heifer until these ones that they have now. And remember, like I said, they found them, they vetted them out, they qualified them, then their hairs changed, they disqualified them, then their hairs changed back, and they requalified. Guys, this is amazing. This is really big news. And we know that if those heifers have been withheld from them for 2,000 years, that can only mean one thing, that God's allowing them to have the red heifers, not because he's going to honor their sacrifices per se, but because it's time. Because the time is here. The appointed time for the tribulation is upon us. And so everything makes sense. That makes sense that the tribulation would start on the Feast of Trumpets, or on the Day of Atonement. But on the Jubilee year, on the Shemitah cycle that ends this. You know what I'm saying? It all makes perfect sense. And it makes sense to me too, because God had been showing me all these things throughout my life. You know, I got saved when I was 7. I had the vision of the rapture when I was 11. Then, you know, my brother didn't, you know, I kept seeing the 9/11s throughout my life, but my brother Jack was 11 years older than me. My brother Kenny was 9 years older than me. Then I had that thing happen in, I think it was 2014 or 2013. It was right before I moved into this house. It was the last year that I worked at this particular place that I came in and the emergency broadcast came on, which of course it was at 9:11 a.m. because I looked on the phone. I was compelled to pull my phone out and it said 9:11. Then at the bottom, it was a straight talk phone, but at the bottom it says, your service date ends March the 23rd. And of course, Jack winds up dying on March the 23rd in 2018. So, and then I saw 9/11 again 2 other times that between the next day and the, between that day and the next day. So 3 times I saw 9/11. And then in 2020, you know, which I think is very interesting. You know, that's the year we all determined was perfect sight. 2020 is perfect sight, perfect vision, but also it means deliverance. And I believe that God was showing everybody a lot of things and pouring out His Spirit so that they could be warned, so they could tell everyone that He's about to return, that this cycle is about to end and this new cycle is about to begin. And that includes, you know, the age of grace and all. So, you know, it means deliverance. 2020 means deliverance in Strong's Concordance, and it also it means, you know, perfect vision, right? And I heard them shofars. I heard one in September, on September the 7th of 2020, and one in November the 7th of 2020. And I don't think the time that I heard them was important, but the first one was on Labor Day, which was September the 7th, 2020. It was actually Labor Day, which is interesting in itself. And, you know, I was on the 7th, like I said, both times on the 7th. But you got the 9th month and you got the 11th month in November. So you got this 9/11. Again, you got on the 7th days, you have them happening during the time that in most years, the Feast of the Lord, the fall feast, happened between September and November. So you got that going on. You got it, like I said, on the 7th day. Then you had the 3s. The trumpet blast that I heard, or the shofar blast that I heard, was in sets of 3. The first one was one long blast, which was like the identifying, you know, that's like I do mine. You do the first blast to get someone's attention. Then you got the 3 consecutive blasts, and then that was in September. And then in November, I heard the long blast at the beginning. Then I heard 3 consecutive blasts, and then a pause, then 3 consecutive blasts, then a pause, and then 3 consecutive blasts, to make a total of 333. And 333 is a big thing, because in Strong's it means to observe carefully. But in there's different books of the Bible, it like tells a story. Ezekiel 33:3 is a point of watchman. When he sees the sword coming, he blows the trumpet. In Jeremiah 33:3, it says, call unto me, and I will answer thee, and I will show you great marvelous things that ye know not. So there's all these other passages and things that when you look at 33:3 or 333, you see there's this connection of watching, warning, being prepared, observing carefully, you know, that kind of thing. So I believe that was very important that we saw that in the year of perfect sight, in the year 2020. And we're looking ahead. How many years? Was it 2 years, 3 years? Somewhere close to 3 years? Well, if it was September of 2020, September 2021, September 2022, that's 2 years. So, I don't know. I don't know what the significance of the 2 years would mean, but you got 22, 2 years. What about the fact that I heard 2 shofars, 2 separate days, 2 months apart? You know, 22, or 22. Or just the fact that there's two shofars, 2 days, that's 22. So, I mean, there's a lot of 2s going on. So I looked up did a Google search on how many times that, or what the significance of 22 was in the Bible, and I learned all kinds of stuff, guys. You really do this study, because it's interesting. But when Jesus was on this is the one that hit me. There's a whole lot of them, guys. I'm only going to mention this one because this was the one that was most profound. Well, there was I might mention a few more, but this was the most profound, because when Jesus was on the cross, right before he gave up the ghost, he made a statement. He said something. And what he did was he quoted from Psalm 22, from the very first part of Psalm 22. He says, my God, why hast thou forsaken me? And guess when he gave up the ghost, right? That was from Psalm 22, right? That's weird. I mean, what are the odds of these 22s that keep popping up? There's 22 letters in the Hebrew alphabet. They just do the search. I mean, there's so many things and Revelation ends with chapter 22. You have the last two verses are 21 and 20 and 21, like 2021, and then, or 2021 and then 22 being the very last chapter. So these last 3 years have been very prophetic. And that may have been our warning starting from the year 2020 or from the year 2019 with the COVID-19, because I mean, my address is literally 2019. I moved in here in November 2014. So the very next year after I moved in here could have started the 7-year cycle that ended that will end this year on September 20, 26th or 27th. I know that November would be the 8th year or whatever, but maybe, like I said, if the Shemitah cycle started in 2015, then I moved in that prior year, and then that Shemitah year started. So I'll turn 50 in January of 2023. So this is a jubilee. It screams jubilee. So for a lot of reasons, but I mean 1973. But I know there's been a lot of speculations on when the Shemitah cycles were, but I think that there's a lot of good documentation, a lot of good evidence to support the fact that we're in a Shemitah cycle because of 2015 and the blood moon tetrads and things. But when you trace those back, you also have tetrads, cycles that would include like the 6-day war and Israel becoming a nation and World War I, World War II. There's a lot of connections, and they may not all be exactly in order. I think there's a couple different Shemitah cycles that people look at, because no one's really 100% sure which one goes all the way back. But I was watching or listening to a guy this morning, who was a preacher who was talking about a Shemitah cycle that has been uninterrupted since Jesus died on the cross. So I can't confirm or vet that out, but that's interesting that he could follow that. He said from that point you could literally follow the Shemitah cycles all the way up until this year being the final cycle. I think it's the 40th Shemitah cycle or 70th Shemitah cycle. But it's pretty profound how it worked out. So anyways, I believe that we are in the end of a Shemitah cycle for sure. As far as 2023 or September this year starting the 50-year jubilee, it's hard to say, but we do see a lot of things happening in the world that could certainly be pointing to tribulation. I mean, you got Israel having these confrontations with Iran. You got Russia and Ukraine, China and Taiwan. Korea is now talking about joining forces with Russia to help defeat Ukraine. We hear wars and rumors of wars. Rumors that Russia and China are going to join forces together and attack us. I mean, there's just all kinds of stuff going on out there. There's just so many things happening, on top of that orb that landed a few days ago in that Mexican tree, or that tree in Mexico. There was an orb. They don't know where it came from. They said it had an antenna on it, and it had some kind of inscription on it. Meteorologists said it could hold some really valuable information, but that thing got carted away by the military, not heard of since. So I knew that was going to happen. I think we knew that, but I had those dreams about the orbs, and my sister seen the big red orb across the street, and then she saw another one in her video closed circuit TV camera. And it's just weird that she started seeing orbs. I had a dream about orbs, and the rapture was happening at the same time. And then I dreamed about the balloon that went up. There's just a whole lot of orbs going on. A whole lot of orbs going on. That could be a song, couldn't it? So you got these orb things, and then the disclosure that's happened in the last couple, just so many things, guys. I mean, you could just talk all day about the things that's happened in the past few years. I mean, it really has been miraculous. And I don't think that God could speak any louder to us concerning this. So when I say the things that we can possibly know of, they're everywhere. We know for sure that the red heifers is a thing. We know that Israel has already said that they've been talking to their Messiah. And we know they're wanting to build a third temple and they have everything ready to do it. Those are things that we know. And so those are major tribulation shadows being cast. I mean, just the fact that Israel claims that they have a Messiah that they're already speaking to, but haven't revealed him to the world yet, it's humongous. I mean, we know that we have to be gone before the tribulation can start, because we believe that we will see and witness Jesus Christ opening the seven seals, or you know what I mean, open up the seals in heaven, with a scroll from Revelation chapter 4. We believe that we're going to see that. We're going to witness that in heaven. And so that's got to happen before the tribulation even starts. So we've got a short window. I mean, if everything's going to start September the 26th and 27th, we've got very little time left, guys. Very little time left. So I'm not saying for sure that it is, but I think that we can truly be excited right now, because I mean, there are a lot of things pointing to the tribulation days starting. I mean, not that that's a good thing. It's not nothing that we would want to celebrate the tribulation starting. It's a bittersweet moment, but we do know that once it does start, that we got to be out of here first. So we see the tribulation coming. We can rejoice in our hearts that we know that Christ is that much closer to come and get us. So be encouraged by that, guys, if nothing else. But I mean, just look around. I mean, it's getting crazy. I mean, it was already crazy, but it's getting more crazy every day. If you listen to Lisa Boyce, Watchwoman 65, she does a lot of the war news and a lot of the world news and prophetic news, and she's just kind of throws them out there, and you can just kind of see how everything is just starting to line up. It's amazing. I mean, everything from the one world currency, one world religion, to the wars, to Israel. Being surrounded by their enemies. You got Euphrates River from Revelation 16:12. The Euphrates River is about dried up, which talks about the kings of the north and the east or whatever coming across the Jordan at that time. So I mean, that's pretty much already happened. I mean, I heard a story, or actually read an article, that there was this family that had to walk 7 miles on foot just to get a little bit of water from the Euphrates, so they could have some drinking water. The Euphrates at one time was a major artery, a major source of food, of life for that part of the earth, for that part of the world. And now it's about completely dried up. Not to mention we're about to go into a drought. And there's another thing, not a drought, but a famine. We're about to go into a famine situation because of the Ukraine. They're talking about there being a famine this fall, which lines up perfectly with the cows from 2014 and 15. We had the 7 years of plenty, and I know we've had some ups and downs during the 7 years, but all in all, the economy has been rather balanced out, and everybody's done pretty well. I mean, we bought our house during that time period, and so have many others. So, it was a pretty good time. I mean, a time of plenty. But now we're approaching what appears to be a time of famine coming, because, with Ukraine and what's happening over there. At least I heard that a third of the world depended on the grain and the products that were grown in Ukraine. And I mean, I believe that a lot of the third world countries depend on their food coming from there. And there's other stuff there too that are that they grow that is used in manufacturing all over the world. So a famine's coming. I mean, what are the odds? So I mean, guys, we could be looking at being out of here really soon. I mean, as early as next month, as early as this month. We really don't know. I mean, we can guess that, but what we can know for sure, though, is that we're right at the door, literally right at the beginning of the tribulation. And I mean, starting this year, it makes sense for a lot of reasons. So, anyways, guys, just be encouraged and keep looking up. And if you haven't come to Lord Jesus Christ, now's the time, guys. I usually put this at the beginning, and I didn't this time, forgot. But if you haven't come to Lord Jesus Christ, believe the gospel that Jesus is the Son of God. This is Corinthians. My mind just went blank. Corinthians. Anyways, Corinthians 14. My mind just went completely dead. I think it's Corinthians 14. 1 through 4, maybe. Anyways, in Corinthians, the gospel is that Jesus died and was buried according to scriptures and was raised on the third day according to scriptures. And if you believe this, confess with your mouth that Jesus is the Lord, believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved. John 3:16, for God so loved the world, he gave his only begotten Son, that whosoever believeth in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but that through him the world might be saved. I mean, guys, it's just belief. It's all based around putting your faith and your trust in Jesus Christ, who died on the cross for your sins, that he truly is the Son of God. And if you believe this with your heart, you will be saved and sealed to the day of redemption, and you will go to heaven. You will go in the rapture. You're rapture ready, heaven bound, rapture ready. And you cannot lose your salvation. Salvation that's all I can say. It just, you can't lose eternal life once you have it. And the way you have it is through putting your trust and faith in Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. And with that, guys, I hope y'all have a wonderful night. And just keep watching and praying. And I believe that we're going to be out of here really soon. And hopefully I'll see you in the air before I see you on this video again. Love y'all. Have a good night.